Yo, what up? What up? Gonna talk about something probably not so controversial, but even though everybody agrees with it, nobody's gonna do anything about it. So all I can really do is just send the message out there and hope that more people are aware. I feel like my shoulders look pretty big right now. I'm blessed with this huge frame, so like my back and my chest get really fucking big. But then I also have like these long, scrawny arms, so like it looks like I got sticks in comparison to the rest of my body. Like I feel like every inch of my biceps like doesn't amount to much because it looks the same if I have like 17, 18, or 19-inch biceps. Like I have to like grow 3 inches on my biceps just to make it look different. But you know, at least I got a pretty big upper back, so that's something. Today we're going to talk about mental health again. I shared an opinion a long time ago. I've had a grand total of 3 therapy sessions. I probably need more, but regardless of my lack of experience with therapy, I do have opinions about it. I think everybody has opinions about everything. And so long as the conversation is rational and reasonable and new information being presented is accepted, I think any conversation can be had with anybody, so long as the intelligence levels are relatively similar and everybody kind of is somewhat respectful. I hear a lot of people, particularly older people, say things like they don't believe in mental health, or that they think that a lot of mental health is overdiagnosed, or that it's just kind of exaggerated, or people are just dramatic. Nowadays, the fucking brightness in this thing needs to make a decision. I don't know how to fix that. But anyway, I hear a lot of people like that. I don't have time to be depressed. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. What do I think about mental health? What do I think about the amount of people that have mental health issues, the amount of people on medications to be able to function in society today? What does that tell me? It tells me 2 things. One, some people are making a lot of money for you to go to therapy, for you to be taking these medications, for you to talk about your problems with a professional, for people to go to college to get educated to be able to do these things. And it's called help. And 2, older people seem to think, and a lot of people seem to think, that there's something wrong with the current crop of people, the current generation. There's always an old generation complaining about the modern generation, because modern generations have problems that older generations don't understand, or older generations don't understand modern day problems. I really don't think people change that much generation to generation. And if they do change, it's for reasons outside of that generation's control. The meme version of this, and the one that I think young people try to say, is that the old generation stole the younger generation's wealth. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think there's a little bit more to it. But, you know, we have technology, we have cell phones, we have internet and access to things 24/7, and by proxy, everybody has access to us 24/7. I think that the mentality of today is a little bit different because our interface with information and the way that we learn things is faster and easier, so the expectations are higher for people. And so there's just constantly a stress to learn something and to improve upon yourself. You can't just be a person with flaws, or you can't just be somebody who's just a normal person. You have to go to the gym, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to constantly be learning something, improving on yourself, working on some sort of issue, being the very possible best at something, to the point to where 20 years ago you'd be an expert at it, and nowadays that's just common information. And you know, the meme that I saw today that made me that reminded me of this thought that I had a while ago that I told to my therapist. The meme said, sorry I didn't read your text message. My brain is trying to process 24/7 information and it was only designed to eat berries in a cave. And I told my therapist, one of my first sessions, she said, "Why have you afforded therapy for so long?" And I told her, I said, "I think society today is so stressful and so outside of what the human body is meant to do that people just pay and outsource conversations because you don't have as many friends that you talk to. You don't have time for as many friends as you talk to, or everything's online or interfaces, or just there's other sources for you to work through your issues where it used to be your friends and family, and now it's a professional that you pay so that you're not making your problems other people's problems because other people have their things to worry about. And now it is considered to be rude to bring your problems to somebody else. Or now people have so many things to worry about that everybody just has too many problems to actually physically deal with. You can't just go to work and pay your bills. You can't just show up to your job and spend a little extra time doing something. You have to constantly be moving. And you have to constantly be thinking. And you have to balance high loads of information and high amounts of policies, rules, and regulations and expectations for every single thing that you do, on top of keeping your workload at a similar pace to where you're making people money. Everything is instant, and things aren't just instant because of technology. People make things instant too. We have more people, and everything has more lines. We have more lines to wait through because there are more things that you have to do in today's day and age. There are more things that you have to have. And there are more things that you have to pay for because you can't just buy things. You can't own things. You have to buy something and then pay to use the internet to use it, and then pay for the subscriptions to use that. I told my fiance, because she was very polite enough to get me this computer, and she knew that my old laptop was very old and had issues, and she wanted to get me something nice for Christmas and my birthday, because my birthday and Christmas are around the same time. So she got me a laptop, and this is a Windows computer. And I was kind of pissed off when I opened it, and it didn't come with Word. It came with Word and Excel and everything from Microsoft for a year. And then if I wanted to have this stuff next year, I had to pay them $80. So I'm paying for software that should just be on the computer. And yeah, there's ways to go around it, but those ways are technically illegal. There's very few legal ways to get those programs on this thing. And that kind of pissed me off, because it's like, this computer's expensive enough to where you should just fucking have it. The fact that you're having a subscription base just means that the goods that you're selling are needed so much that you can just keep charging people for it, because you can't just pay for things one time anymore. You have to keep paying. Everything's a subscription, is a subscription base. That is the model for everything. And eventually you're paying more for the same thing, or you're getting a lot of very crappy things with that one thing. And most of the things that you're getting with your subscriptions you don't really need, but you have to pay for everything that's involved with that subscription to have one aspect of it. Like, I need Microsoft Word because I'm trying to write more books. I want to write more. Typing is the best way for me to do it. I'm a fairly fast typer, and I can have all these extra computer programs to help me edit it. And it's just ridiculous. And I told my therapist, I said, society today is so stressful that we just made therapy a thing so that you can deal with problems that you otherwise wouldn't have to, because it's not about survival. It's brains that are designed for survival trying to function in a world that is safer, but causes us high anxiety. Because anxiety and stress comes from survival mechanisms. They come from your brain being hardwired to look for problems and to solve problems and to worry about them until you can solve them. But now we have these nebulous problems that are constantly around us. You're constantly having to worry about having enough money. It's not just about having food. It's worrying about having enough money to be able to pay for everything. And you're paying for so many things that it's getting harder and harder to budget for things. So many people, a lot of people lose out on money. If there's another program that many people need to have, if we get to a point to where you have to pay for your fucking Gmail account, you know, that's going to be another thing that you're going to have to pay for, and it's not like your salary is going to go up if you have to pay for that. And there's more things that you have, and there's more things that you want, and there's more things to buy. And everybody's constantly going shopping. It's fucking February. And we feel a need to constantly buy things because society will function very well if people continue to buy things. But if people stop buying things to try to save money and do the financially responsible thing, the economy crashes. And so everything is predicated on your brain being constantly taken advantage of and abused. It's the same thing with our food. Why can't people eat healthy? Because fucking our food is hardwired. Our brains are hardwired to like food that helps us survive. And what better way to survive than to have high calorie food? So you can have storages of energy. And since food companies know this, they found the sweet spot for sugar, where they can add the most amount of sugar to something without ruining the taste, because they know sugar's addictive. They add fats and they add all these artificial flavors. They add all these things and cancerous preservatives to make things last longer and blah, blah, blah. And then you eat too much food and then you're blamed for being too fat. But most people are too fat. And if most people are too fat, can you really always blame the individual, especially if people are making billions of dollars on the fact that people are this bad with their food? Everybody's in debt, but society needs you to have debt. Society needs you to spend money you don't have because we're buying so many fucking things. Just spending money that you have doesn't work in our modern day society. You have to borrow to function. You can't just save money like you used to. And because we borrow, things get more expensive. And because things get more expensive, the borrowing gets little by little increases until now we have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for a fucking college degree that you're probably never going to use. Or houses are disproportionately expensive compared to people's wages. And all of this so that some people can make more money. And people start getting desperate whenever they're having all of these issues. They try to find outlets to deal with it. And unfortunately, most of those outlets aren't healthy. Alcohol, for example, is probably the most common way that people deal with their problems. You take people's alcohol away, they're going to have to start actually facing their fucking problems. And then people are going to get a lot more stressed out. But what happens is they drink alcohol and they have these moments where they're just acting really fucking stupid so they can let loose a little bit. And then you have a country where, in my opinion, half the fucking country is probably addicted to alcohol, to the point to where if they stop drinking cold turkey, they're probably going to get some fucking headaches. I'm addicted to caffeine, because for so long I had to keep up with lack of sleep. You know, we expect this to a point to where we push the human brain to its breaking point, and then we blame it for being broken. And I think that's what causes all of our modern day mental health issues, because older people either find ways to avoid it, or they don't really care as much, so they only kind of just do whatever they need to, or they're maybe a little bit more emotionally mature to deal with it, or maybe it's just the fact that they're retired and they have extra income because they've been able to accrue it for longer, so they're not as worried about these things. But when people are stressed and desperate, mental health issues start coming up. I mentioned in my last video that when people are struggling and don't have any money, they get more desperate, they start using more drugs, they go to jail, they start trying to commit suicide more frequently, because stress causes your brain to break at some point. And we have, instead of major problems that you deal with, you know, a tiger that you have to fight off with a spear, like ancient civilizations probably had to deal with, or, you know, a hard task that you need to do, like building a fucking house, that people just kind of built their own houses for the longest time, building their own log cabins, things like that. Or finding your food, like small singular tasks that you get benefits from doing, and they're stressful and a lot of work, but you get it done, and once you get it done, it's kind of done. Now it's like not the case. You're constantly recycling and restarting, refreshing. You can't just build your house. You have to work until maybe, probably, possibly you have enough money for a big enough loan. That's probably going to be more expensive than you can actually afford to buy a house, so you can work to pay it off. And then by the end of it, you're paying 30 years, 10 to 15 years worth of your fucking salary for a fucking house that it just constantly demands more work from you, and you can't ever move on from the things, and you don't own anything, and there are countless pages of rules for every fucking thing that you have to do, to the point to where not reading it can sometimes screw you over. And everybody's just trying to screw you over, and everybody's trying to charge you more money, and everything's getting the moment that you have a little bit of extra income, things cost a little bit more money, so it's almost like you're back at square one. Why wouldn't we have mental health issues? Why wouldn't people have ADHD or autism when most of our communication is online now, and most of our interface with people is on the internet now? Why wouldn't we have health issues when the vast majority of restaurants in this country are fast food restaurants? And it kind of gets to a point to where some people don't have the time or energy or the skills to be able to make their own food, because a lot of our skills that we had to know for ourselves to survive are outsourced to other people. And for a lot of people, that's cooking. Or just constantly working, but rushing from thing to thing to thing is not a healthy way of doing things. Constantly being expected to be perfect at what you're doing at your job, at every single task, and spending the extra time to make sure that it's done right, but also rushing to get other things done. Probably not a good recipe for mental health. Having to constantly worry about every small little aspect of your fucking life. I mean, this is what life is for a lot of people now. And I think that while it is good for people to have flaws in society today are punished now more than ever. You can't be somebody that has flaws and it not be known for a lot of people. You can't say anything without posting it on the internet for potentially hundreds of people to say. You can't say an insensitive joke and enough people hear it without it spreading to other people and you possibly losing your job. You can't have a wrong opinion and communicate it, because you don't really get to talk to people in person as much as we used to. And public places are slowly becoming things of the past. So now your only form of communication is posting on the internet, and then you post it on the internet and you have a wrong opinion, or you have a different opinion, and every single person that disagrees with you just fucking has to tell you. And everything is a hostile argument. Everything is a hostile argument to the point to where people develop an unnecessary confrontation skill that otherwise shouldn't be there. And it's not good confrontation. It's not like I'm learning how to defend myself. It's I am going to argue with you because I feel like you're screwing me over and I feel like you're trying to take advantage of me. And so I'm going to raise my voice. I'm going to ask for your manager because I'm going to make it known to the point to where it will be better for you to just give me my way. Because even if I'm right or wrong, it doesn't matter. The society requires that I constantly defend myself, whether it be emotionally, whether it be policy-wise at your jobs, because you're constantly being told contradictory things, whether it be issues with how much things cost, because some people might try to charge you more, or you're not going to be getting a fair deal, or you're paying too much for a product that you barely want, and you're not getting a good version of that product. And it's just constant, and people are constantly testing their patience. Like today, I saw my rent, and I've been trying to work on my mental health, right? And then I saw my rent today because we signed a new lease, and I saw the increase in price because I knew it was going to be more expensive, but it was just a little bit more than I was prepared to deal with. And I became a miserable fuck for a couple minutes because it pissed me off. It pissed me off because it's these little things and these little moments where people are just fucking you over a little bit, to the point to where people just snap. And now we're to a point to where a healthy person is somebody who just seemingly has infinite patience with people trying to screw them over, is constantly going to have a positive attitude no matter how crappy the people around them are, no matter how crappy your boss is, or no matter how crappy your situation is. And people who are just unwilling to display any problems that they have until they're in the privacy of their own home, in which case they're only taking it out on their families. And then we have a higher divorce rate. And then the perfect person that everybody was like very surprised, that everybody loves, because they only took their problems at home, they have marriage issues. And they get divorced, and then it's like I didn't know that they were having problems, and people get surprised by it. It's just a recipe for disaster. And I think this is why people crave simpler lives, because we're tired of the constant emails. We're tired of constantly having to keep track of everything. We're tired of every little fucking thing in life just being another thing on the list that you have to do. And it's not even for enjoyment. You're just doing it. Like, there's very little things that you do for actual enjoyment. Like, you don't eat for enjoyment. And many of the foods that we have nowadays are so disproportionately tasty that your taste buds are fucking dulled to a point to where, like, you can't just enjoy a normal thing. And much of our education isn't really steered towards being able to actually healthily deal with these problems. It's just outsourced. It's pay somebody else to do it. Pay them money to have your problems dealt with. If you don't have enough money, then fuck you. And then because a lot of people don't have enough money, they just get told to fuck off. And so they break. It's not normal for people to have to be medicated to function in normal everyday society. But no, our society isn't normal. There's a pretty good video where you can watch a time lapse of modern day societies from Vsauce, where he basically shows what human existence was like. And I can't remember how long it was, but it was basically, every second was like, I think 10,000 years. And he said, see if you can pause it to the frame where it's modern day society. And I think it's like literally one frame where you have cities, where you have cars, where you have all of these things. And for the most of it, it's people being hunters and gatherers. It's people walking around. It's people living together in tribes and possibly like having local conflicts. The average life expectancy was 14 years old, maybe in their 20s. And it was very different from what we experience today. And it's probably what we're geared to do. And most people today wouldn't know how to function in that kind of society, because we have all of these skills that are useless without our technology, or we have all this information that's kind of useless without our technology, or we have all the specializations and these very, very specific career paths that don't really transfer that well to other career paths. So you're kind of stuck with where you are until you get qualified to go do something else. And there's all these pieces of paper that you need to have, and society kind of treats you like a number, because you quite literally have multiple numbers attached to your name. You're just another fucking person in a line of people that are just cranked through in every single building that you walk in. And you don't have time to express yourself. You don't have time to share your feelings. You don't have time to really make any real deep connections with anybody. So modern day society does have more mental health issues, in my opinion. And that's because I think people are struggling, and we're struggling in a way that's too confusing for people to notice. It's not just money. It's that money has become more complicated than most people understand. It's why people are, like, look at any fucking financial thing on the internet, any financial advice that you get, and you will have people debate it as if it's like quantum physics, as if it's something that's actually confusing, because it is confusing. Explain to me how the stock market works, and whether or not we're in a bubble, and when we're going to have a recession, and why you think that, and look at how many different metrics go into just that one thing. And then explain to me how so many people don't make enough money to pay their bills, and then how you're going to fix that, and what are the long-term ramifications, and the disagreements that people have. And everybody acts like they're more educated than the next person, and that's so simple and so obvious if you just look at it my way, because it's a complicated issue. because it's more than just numbers and statistics. It's markets, and it's things that aren't really that predictable, and it's circumstances and politics and wars that interact with it that you can't always predict and account for. And then sometimes you can if you're smart enough, but there's a reason why very, very few people ever actually become successful understanding markets, because they're hard to understand. And a lot of times they're lucky. But you're supposed to understand money. I mean, budgeting is complicated because you have to be able to quantify everything that you're spending. Some people can't even do basic math because that's been outsourced to your fucking calculators. And you have to be able to keep track of all your subscriptions, and sometimes your information is stolen. You get charged for things that you don't even realize, or sometimes you don't understand why you're getting charged things, or there's service fees and extra fees that come with things that you need to pay for that you don't need, but you have no choice but to pay for. Or there are things that you have to buy that you can't account for, and it gets complicated. And most people live paycheck to paycheck, and they somehow survive. We have more people getting homeless because they just can't manage that. And the people that are trying to manage not becoming homeless are getting more stressed until they break. And I think that's why we have mental health issues, because we cause it. We have all these high standards.